Welcome back. We are continuing. This is part 24.1, and we are continuing from last night's part 24. If you have not followed part 24, then what we do in this video is going to make absolutely no sense to you and be completely useless. We had to stop part 24 because it was getting a little long, and so this is a continuation of part 24. This is part 24.1. Okay, I don't remember exactly where we left off, so let's take a look at what we have and get an idea of what we need. So we're going to make sure we run dedicated server. We're going to hit play, and if you remember, we have it set to the K key, and so it looks like we had it build this tree from our data table. It doesn't look like the talents point is working. And if you remember, we hard-coded strength and jump. Okay, so we need to connect those up to the database, get those pulling from persistence. We need to connect this talent points and get that working. And if I remember right, yeah, see, we can't click these. See? Okay. So those are the tasks we need to take a look at. Let's take a look at on our third-person character with abilities, and it looks like the last one we opened here is the save skill tree. So let's take a look at that. And you can see here we've organized these nicely here under skill tree, so at least that's going to help us a little bit. Okay, this one's actually pretty simple. So we've got this value here under skill tree called skill tree serialized. And we have set it to replicate with a rep notify, and we have only owner only, right? We don't want to replicate the skills we have to our opponents, right? We wouldn't want to do that. That's not a good idea for a PvP game. So we basically just want to replicate it from the server back to ourselves. And when we save the skill tree, this one's actually pretty simple. We just want to use this OWS node called add or update custom character data. So we're going to start in custom character data. And so the custom field name I think we're going to use, let's just do skill tree. And basically what this is going to do is say, hey, if there isn't a field called skill tree, add it. If there is one, update it. And this is the value to use. Sounds pretty simple. Okay, let's look at the other ones here. So we've got add skill to skill tree serialized. Okay, we need to send in the skill name. Oop, we got a slash there we don't want. Okay, so we're sending in the skill we want to add. And we need to take this skill tree serialized, and we need to make it usable. So we're going to parse it into an array, because otherwise it's not very usable. So we're going to parse it into an array, and we're going to add a local variable here. Local variable temp skills, and subtype string. And we're going to turn it into an array. And we'll drag this up here. We're doing it as a local variable. And this is going to get the output from here. And we want to split this on semicolon delimiter. And we don't want any spaces around it. So that's step one. Then what we want to do is we want to, from that, we want to add unique. Right, so we only want to add it if it isn't already there, because there's no reason to list a skill twice. Makes no sense. Ideally, we would never be calling it if it was already in the list, but just in case we do that, then let's have add unique. So then we're going to take this set skill tree serialized, and we're going to set it. Which, remember, see, it has notify. We'll take a look at building that notify later. And this is going to be temp skills, but we're going to put it back together, right? So we can join. So we'll take a look at what these two things do. So what this one does here is that we have something like this. Let's see, I think we have strength, jump is the value, right? And so what this will actually end up doing is creating us an array with two entries, strength in entry 0, jump in entry 1, okay? And then over here, this now we have two entries. This is going to turn it back into strength, semicolon, jump. And if we had added light grenade, it would be light grenade, right? So we're adding it to the array, and then this is going to join them all back together. Okay. And then we're going to take that value and set it. Now remember, this is happening on the server, and this skill tree serialized once it gets set here, because it says with notify, as soon as it gets set, it's going to make a call back to the, well, it's not going to make a call. It's basically going to replicate the value back, and when the value gets replicated back, it's going to call this on rep skill tree serialized, right? So we're going to take a look at that soon. And then we want to make a call to update skills per tier. Update skills per tier. And that one hasn't been built out yet, so we may have to come back to that. We're going to skip remove and go to this update skills per tier, because we're going to need to do that one first. Okay, so I've got update skills per tier, and we need to know whether we're adding or removing. So we need a boolean, and we need add or remove. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to, I want that A fixed to caps. Really? Wow. Well, I don't like that at all, as being a lowercase a. That makes me very unhappy, but I don't see how to change it. Bummer. Okay. So what we need to do here, yeah, we're going to need to get the skill tree. Okay. This is actually something we're going to build out later. That one's not finished yet. But we can go back to here, and there we got it. So now it shows up, and that one's going to be empty. So we'll be ready for it. Okay, let's go to remove. Remove skill from skill tree serialized. And we need to add skill name. As a string. Okay, and we're going to do some copying and pasting. We want this, and we want to paste it here. We could potentially create a function to do this, but it is, we're going to say promote to variable. I think that will create it. No. Okay, look at what that did. Didn't create it under temp variables. Let's see if it's going to let us create it here. Skills. I think it's going to. What? Yeah, sometimes you gotta, sometimes their references are no fun. Let's see if that fixes it. And it did. Okay. And so now, in this one, what we want to do is we want to remove it. So remove item. And the item that we want to remove is the one we're sending in. And then after we've removed it, let's go back over to the add. We want this again and this. Move over here. And this doesn't do anything yet, but we're checking it for remove. So let me just talk a little bit about this. So a common computer programming thing with bools is that you can say something or something in the name, and it means if it's unchecked or 0, it's the first item, and if it's checked or 1, it's the second item. It's just a common thing that programmers do. It's pretty common. And so in this case, unchecked is add, checked is remove. So in this case, it's remove. But this is something we're going to handle in a future video. Not today, but we're getting set up for it. Which also means we're not going to implement update skills per tier. This is about tier roles, which we're not going to get to today. We do want to come down here, though, to this on-rep skill tree serialize. This one is important. This is what is going to get executed after it updates the value on our client. Now, we don't need this, but as I have often said, I like to put this in to remind me. Technically, all of these on-reps are going to be remote, but I want to be reminded. And so I'm going to put this here and pull off the remote. And I'm going to do... I really wish I had this cached. In my other project, I have this cached. Yeah, that's for a different video. We need a player controller reference, and I don't have one cached, so I'm going to have to do get controller. And I'm going to have to cast to third-person player controller. And again, we're pulling this off the remote. And then from here, I'm going to call toggle skill tree icon. Yep. And that should do it. Because that's what we want to do locally. We want to toggle the skill tree icon locally after the value gets changed. So I think that's going to do that. Okay. So that covers quite a bit. Let's see if we're now correctly toggling them. So we're going to run it. Hit K. Remember, this is hard coded, so we got to fix that hard coding. But I want to see, yeah, still not toggling this here. Okay, so we got to follow that through. So let's do that. Let's follow it through. Skill tree. So somebody clicks on this skill tree icon widget. Okay. Yeah. So here's what we're missing right here. They click on the skill tree icon widget and nothing happens. But we have click skill tree icon. And we have a skill name. And we have it activated. And we've got this last skill icon. So let's take a look at that. Just checking my other project to make sure I get this one right. Aha! The last skill icon is self. Get reference to self. There we go. And we've already got this activated. Okay. So we click it. It calls this click skill tree icon in the player controller. So now we've made it to the player controller. And okay, so we got our click skill tree icon here. We set our last icon toggled, but we need something here. This was the spot we were waiting. Ah, yes. So we need to request, not the server one, but this one, request skill tree activation. And remember, we sent in a skill name, and we sent in the activated. Okay. So that looks good. Now we need to go after that. Now this gets us to our character with abilities. Remember? So it gets over to here. It now jumps from the local client where we were making the input and sends those values up to the server authority. And we check whether we're activating it or deactivating it. Remember, they're backwards. False is activating. And so we say, hey, it should be able to activate it. We check premium currency. Premium currency is number of talents. Is it greater than 0? If so, we can activate it. And we do this. We're basically premium currency plus or minus. But I think we're also missing some stuff here. Yes, because we need to do more than that. We now need to remove skill tree from... So now we basically say, okay, we did that, but we need to update our serialized variable, right? Remember how they're all stored in our skill tree serialized? We need to update that. So that's coming from the skill name. It gets sent here. Or if we're adding it, or add skill to skill tree serialized, right? So we're updating that value, and we're sending in our skill name. Okay. And after we do that, in either of those cases, we want to save that skill tree back to the database. So if you remember, back in here, add or update custom character data. This is updating. It makes a call back to the API. Not going to take me back to where I was. That's fine. Okay, and then we also, because we updated this premium currency, we want to call update character stats. This one has all of the OWS attributes for the update character stats has all the OWS attributes for gameplay abilities, but premium currency is actually in the base. So we'll just update the base stats. There we go. Now what we do want to do here is, remember we hard-coded that value right here. We want to stop hard-coding that, because technically that should come from our original load. And so what we need to do is we need to go and find So we need to go to our event graph, which we're in, and we need to come up here to where we're loading get custom stats, get custom character data. So get custom character data comes down here, loads the custom character data. One of them is the color, and then after we load the color, we loop through here, and we print some stuff. But we don't need to print that anymore. So we can dump that, and we can dump that. What we do need to do is we do need to load some data. So we're going to say if the custom character field name equals, and here we were checking cosmetic character color, which will show the coloring, but now we're interested in, remember, it's skill tree. Pull this off down here, and we're going to do a branch. Probably at some point we'll break all this loading into a separate function just to get it out of here, but this is going to work for now. And we're basically going to say, hey, if this is, we're basically just checking them one by one. Is it character color? Nope, it's not. Is it skill tree? If true, we want to set this value. And we want to set it equal to the field value, right? Because this is a key value pair. And we'll grab these. We'll add a comment that says load skill tree data. And to match my other one, I'll give it a blue color. There we go. Okay, so now we're no longer hard coding that, so that's cool. And we are saving it, so that's cool too. But we don't have any talents, so that's going to be a problem. So what we're going to do is bring up our management console. rpgwebapi.saberdartstudios.com/home/login, or you can get to it from your RPG World server. There's a way to get to it. And I'm going to log in here. And we need to go to our characters. So I logged in. We're at our characters. And we are playing with Future 3. Right here. And so we're going to hit edit. And we need to see what I think premium currency is all the way at the bottom. Yeah, okay. So we've got 2 skills. I'm going to change it to 3. Well, hold on. I'm going to leave it at 2. And the reason I'm going to do that is I want to go see the character data. Custom data. Yeah, okay, so it has strength. So that's 1 plus the 2 more. That works. That works. I had already inserted this. So you can view the custom character data here, but unfortunately there's no way to edit it yet. This is something I'm going to work on in the future. It'd be nice if we could, for testing, it'd be nice if we could edit some of this. Okay, so I think that's looking pretty good. Let's make sure that's loading properly. Okay, it is not setting this talent point here correctly. That should have said 2. Okay, so we got to look at that. It did load strength, right? And that was the one we just saw here. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign. Let's see if we can select something now. Still cannot select something. Okay. So, let's see why that number is not loading. I think we were working on this right when we stopped. Back to our player controller and our input graph. Okay, that actually looks pretty good. That's what happens when we toggle it. And there's skill tree, rebuild skill tree, click skill tree icon, toggle skill tree icon. I believe we built all those. Yep, obviously that's working. That one's potentially working. And toggle skill tree icon. Skill tree change. Let's go see where that went. Ah, it comes down to here. Okay, got it. So, skill tree change is where we moved our loading of it. So, skill tree change, when it gets called, should go and update that value. But we probably need to call this earlier to set that up. So let's take a look at how we can do that to get the initial value in here. Trying to figure out how I got that in there. Skill tree change. Is it at the end of rebuild skill tree? Oh, yeah, it's in there. So in rebuild skill tree, skill tree change right here. So that's picking up that value from premium currency and should be setting it in the number of talent points. So let's print string that. Just gonna be a number, but I think we can pick it out. Let's see. And remember that number should have been a 2. So we go into future 3, and premium currency is 2. And just as a way to double check that that's what you're pulling, this is the character name you're pulling. So this is the one you want to be editing. Debug character name. And so let's give that a try. We want to go into our output log, clear, hit play. Ah, okay. A 0. A 0 does not look like what I was wanting. Nope. I need the actual value, not a 0, and that's supposed to be 2, which is why that's doing that. So that makes sense. Okay. So we've got a problem there, and I think I know why. So let me bring up so what's happening, if I remember right, is that there was a problem. Let me bring up a web browser real quick here. And docs install. Let's see. Angelog. Yeah, there's a newer version here. Okay, so there's actually going to be an 1120 here by the time you guys, this video is up, and we're going to need to update to that 1120 version. And you remember what we do: download the zip file and replace the plugin folder. And I'm actually going to go do that here real quick. Save selected. And I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to go to my OWS folder for distribution. See, I've got this 1120. It's actually already out there. And I'm going to come over here. This is the folder we're using. Remember, we come in here, delete the plugin, copy the plugin out of here, and I believe this is going to fix that premium currency issue. Pretty sure there was a problem with it not loading. Seems familiar, at least. So let's give that a try. Yes. This is a 4.21. No, don't load now. Just make sure here. That's fine. I killed you in the middle, so I expect that. Oh, so we go here, just going to double check. I thought that... Oh! My bad. So we never upgraded this project to 4.21, so we're actually 2 versions old. I forgot about that. Okay. Well, let's convert this to 4.21. And we'll see what potentially are some of the pitfalls here. One of the ugly ones is going to rebuild all the shaders. But okay, so you can go in here and you can just switch on Unreal Engine version. We changed it to 4.21. I didn't mean to hit that again. And that was important because our plugin is a 4.21 plugin. That's what it was telling us, that they did not match. I forgot that we did not update this. I thought that yesterday when we were doing this, I thought it was a 4.21 project. It was actually a 4.20, so we're actually 2 plugins behind. We're going to reload this in 4.21. This is fairly normal. If it crashes when we do this, we have to dump the binaries, the intermediate, and the saved folders, and do it again. But hopefully it won't crash. Forgot about that. I meant to, as the start of this session yesterday, I meant to go and update our project to 4.21, so we could use the 1108 plugin, but we were using a previous one. I actually don't think we needed the 1120 from today. I think the 1108 actually had the fix in it. So we're updating the project to 4.21. If you guys don't have 4.21, you'll need to go download it. A lot of people ask, hey, why can't we stay on 4.20? And unfortunately, I have 800 people using OWS, over 800, and I have to support all of them using it, and because everybody's connecting to my web API. The plugin version is paired with the web API, so if you run a plugin version that doesn't match the version of the web API, it may not work. And so, unfortunately, that means we all have to stay on the same version. So, if you want to be able to use a different version than the latest Unreal Engine version, you would have to buy OWS and run your own servers. There's really no other way to do it. I'm not managing multiple versions of the web API, so we have to stay up to date. It gives us these warnings about these colors. If you go into each one and resave it, those warnings will go away. Yeah, I guess we're fine with restoring what we've got. Okay, so now we're going to give it a try. It's probably going to do some shader recompiling, but I think that now, okay, every time you upgrade, important, come back in here and hit run dedicated server. The reason being is that it rebuilds the saved folder, and the saved folder was what held that. I think this was a terrible mistake. I think that value should be in config so that it doesn't get overwritten on upgrade, but every time you copy the project, every time you update the project, it's going to uncheck that run dedicated server. Another warning, that's the way I tell, is if there is a health bar over your player's head, you know that dedicated server is not checked. So that's an easy way to tell. Surprisingly, it didn't have to rebuild shaders. I'm actually really impressed. There we go. Now our talent points are loading. And probably the reason that we were not able to select these, we'll see in a second if I'm right, is because we didn't have any talent points. There we go. Look at that. So now it's correctly took away our talent point. Right? So we got those. And now let's see if it saves it. Okay, so I'm going to hit stop. And I'm going to hit play again. And look at that. It saved those values back to the database. It saved the 0 for the premium currency, which is our talent points. If we actually come here and we go future 3 and we view these values, we should see the premium currency is 0. It is. There it is. Because it updated it. And now if we unselect them, it will give the points back to us. Make sure it saves. And I'm hitting the K key to open this, and look at that. Saved them again. Very cool. So I think that solves everything that I wanted to look at today. So this is 24.1. In part 24.2, which may have to wait until after Thanksgiving. I'm going away for a few days, and so might have to wait till Sunday. But in 24.2, we're actually going to start enforcing tier rules. See, right now, I can just jump down and pick this one, right? That's not what we want. We want you to have to spend a certain number of points in this tier before you can get to the next tier, right? We also want this strength to actually increase our character strength. We want this jump to give us let's see, to give us the jump command. Is it F? Yeah, there we go. Right, so we want it to start without that, and we want that to grant that. And then we want the light grenade here to grant us light grenade, right? Sometimes it's annoying when it loads dark like this. So if it does that, just find your time of day BP. It's usually this floating white thing. And I usually just toggle between 0 and 3600. So that flips between one or the other. Now it should be back to daytime. There we go. So, okay, so we can now go in here and we can pick our talents. Of course, it's not enforcing rules, and it's not actually doing anything. But we did build this dynamically. We'll also take a look in the future at building a second skill tree. And all we have to do to build that second skill tree is we just have to come in here, duplicate this Seraph skill tree, and we can then create separate sets of skills or talents here. And so we can also add more rows, right? So we could have, row number 2. This is the tier. I might change that to tier. And we can start adding more, and it will keep building it. So there's a lot that we can do there. And we will take a look at that in the next video. But I think this is it's a good spot to stop for now. It's where I wanted to get to last night, but it just the video just ran long. So you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I will see you later. Until then.